Hataro was an ugly, lazy, depressing, lonely loser who secretly possessed the ability to solve any mystery in the world, but was unable to keep hiding his powers after being enchanted by the hottest girl in the school. He had sworn to never waste any energy and hated anyone who played sports or had a relationship, as the only thing he wanted was to live a gray life. However, this dickhead thought his life was sad, and that his self-hatred was beginning to consume him. So Hataro told Satoshi that he would never waste his energy if he didn't need to, revealing his application to the Classics Club. His sister had begged him to keep her club alive, as it would be closed down if no one joined it this year. But after grabbing the master key and passing the fat-ass janitor along the way, he was glad it was in the remotest part of the school, but realized that the door was locked. So after unlocking it, he took a step inside, never realizing this was the moment his life would change forever. This ugly bitch's name was Chitanda, but although she had already known his name, he realized that they had only had a single class before, and wondered how she remembered his irrelevant face. She revealed that she had joined the Classics Club for personal reasons, but after realizing that the club already had a member, he decided to leave since he was no longer needed. However, when she pulled him back, revealing that she didn't have the keys to the room, he realized that the door was locked when he got here. As she realized she was locked in alone, she wondered how it was possible, but realized there was a guy standing behind them. So when Satoshi entered, he revealed he was excited to see his lifeless face of a friend finally talking to a girl alone, and wondered why they were meeting up in secret. However, Chitanda tried explaining that the door mysteriously locked after she entered the room, but Hataro thought someone might have locked it by mistake and began heading home. Realizing he couldn't say no to her, Hataro reluctantly decided to give it some thought, so as he approached the door, he asked her if she noticed anything strange. But when Chitanda revealed the ground had been rattling from underneath, neither of the guys were able to hear what she was talking about. At that moment, Hataro decided to go down to check the source of the sound, and saw the janitor fixing the lights before locking the doors. Seeing how he was the only other person with the room's keys, he thought he was their culprit. But Chitanda thought he was the smartest guy in the world for figuring it out that quickly. By the time the day was over, Chitanda asked if Satoshi would also join them, so as he agreed, revealing that Hataro had also filled out the club entry form, Chitanda grew excited, and extended her hand out to him. As he handed her the slip, she was glad he would be spending time with her. But even as they walked home together, he swore that he wouldn't give up on his peaceful life, and would never stop conserving his energy. Later that night, Chitanda had heard Moonlight Sonata playing from a mysterious room, and it happened to be a rainy night. So as she entered the room, the music abruptly stopped. However, when she laid her eyes on the mysterious figure, the sonata began getting louder, until the object finally materialized, revealing the club's lead piano player who died on the eve of the national competition.
No, that one there was a violation. Personally, I wouldn't have it.
As Satoshi said he was only entertaining him during his detention, Hataro revealed that hearing his useless chatter was worse than having to redo his homework. However, Satoshi revealed Chitanda heard this rumor of the ghost at lunch, that their spirit lied in room 1D, and that it was the second greatest mystery of their academy. So when Satoshi saw how far away the room was, he wondered what the first greatest mystery was. A while later, Chitanda's clumsy ass came into the room, but Hataro already knew she was going to ask him about the ghost. So he tried changing the subject to a rumor about a secret club, asking Satoshi to retell the greatest mystery in their academy. Apparently, every year there is a club that secretly gives flyers out without the permission of the student council. So as Satoshi revealed that this secret club was called the Silk Spider Society, the president had found their flyer the previous year. Even so, he wasn't able to discover their true identity, so it became everyone's goal to find out who the members were and find this year's secret flyer. Hearing those words, Chitanda said she was curious, but she had fallen for Hataro's trap, and he revealed that he wanted to look for the flyer with her. On their way down, Hataro thought that the club would likely hide it in plain sight, on the billboard in front of the school's entrance. By the time they arrived, Hataro grew sick when he saw the flyers, as he couldn't imagine how all those people were wasting their energy. He especially hated wasting his energy using the internet while being spied on, so he used the sponsor of today's video, CyberGhost VPN, and protected himself while gaining access to his favorite shows. If you have been geo-blocked from watching your favorite movies and content, and it's starting to feel like you're stuck in the prison realm, CyberGhost VPN easily unlocks all geo restrictions, and would protect all your internet activity through a completely secure VPN tunnel. With CyberGhost VPN, you could change your online location to any region you want, could play every video game that has been blocked in your region, and even access blocked libraries of over 40 streaming services. Your options are unlimited with CyberGhost VPN, because with over 38 million users worldwide, along with an incredible rating from more than 20,000 people on Trustpilot, CyberGhost VPN easily passes as the best virtual private network in the entire world, all while protecting your IP address against hackers, and even encrypts your data against data brokers while using public Wi-Fi. With one subscription of $2.03 a month using the link in my description, you could use CyberGhost VPN across 7 different devices, and even share with family and friends. CyberGhost VPN is available for all platforms, with a 45 days money-back guarantee, and a 24/7 customer support to assist you in getting unrestricted access to all regions and to easily break out of the prison realm. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in my description to get the best deal for your devices, and join me in unlocking all geo restrictions, including the world of plot development. Thank you to CyberGhost VPN for sponsoring me, because while I'm already unlocking all the restricted plot development areas for my next video, Hataro is stuck solving useless mysteries for a girl who'll never want him because of his ugly, useless face. Damn! As they began searching for the flyer, Chitanda realized it wasn't there, but while she was distracted with Satoshi, Hataro found the flyer, saying that they wouldn't want to draw attention to themselves. However, when Hataro noticed how Chitanda's excitement faded, thinking it wasn't as interesting as she thought, he realized he did something wrong. On his way home with Satoshi, he wondered why he went through all that trouble of creating the flyer to divert her from the piano mystery. As he revealed he wanted to avoid wasting time and just go straight to the entrance, he couldn't stop thinking about Chitanda's excitement. However, Satoshi thought he was becoming different. After all, the old Hataro would have just refused her request, but he went through more trouble than he needed just to make her happy. After his usual class activities, Hataro met up with Chitanda at the club room, giving him a box of treats to munch on, while both of them stayed silent and continued reading their novels. Hataro was enjoying the silence, but then Chitanda suddenly got up and said that they needed to do something more productive with their extra time, rather than just lazying around all day. Asking her what she would like to do, Chitanda said that their club should make a collection of short stories, which they could sell during the upcoming cultural festival. But Hataro wasn't ready for all that hard work. However, when Chitanda said that the school board had ordered them to create the book or their club would be shut down, Hataro had no option but to tag along, and he asked her where they should start. She said that they should look for any of the old materials made by the past club members, which they could use as a guide, but after searching for countless hours, the both of them found nothing. Chitanda dragged Hataro to the library to continue their search, and there they met a student named Ibara, who had always hated Hataro because of his carefree attitude, and she called him a bitch for following Chitanda around school. Satoshi appeared moments later and teased the both of them, saying that they would make a cute couple, but Ibara got pissed and told him to cut it out, because she would rather date a fat f***ing pig than to date Hataro. Emotional damage! Chitanda introduced herself to Ibara, and she told her that they were looking for any books made by the Classic Lit Club. But Ibara said that she had no idea, and that only the librarian could say for sure. She told them that the librarian would be back for work in half an hour, and Hataro was just about to walk away, when Satoshi said that they should pass time by listening to an interesting story that Ibara had told him before. Chitanda couldn't resist hearing some tea, and she dragged Hataro to listen as well, so Ibara told them how students had been borrowing a particular book from the library, and always returning at the same time after a week. The book was a text containing relevant info about the school's history, and because the library allowed students to borrow a book for up to 2 weeks, it made no sense that it was always returned on the Friday of every week. Chitanda tried getting Hataro to solve the mystery, but he kept refusing until their arguments started pissing off other students, and he was forced to accept, just to avoid the unnecessary attention. Haibara was shocked that Chitanda would ask Hataro for help, because she thought that he was nothing but a blockhead. So Satoshi told her about all the mysteries that Hataro had solved in the past few days. He began thinking about all the infinite possibilities, but when Chitanda said that people were probably using the pages of the book as toilet paper, Hataro wondered if she was actually as smart as Satoshi had said. Looking at the list of students who had borrowed the book, Hataro noticed that it had all been girls, but he tried racking his brain over why a group of girls would want to borrow a boring history book. Chitanda sniffed the book and said that it smelled like paint, but when she tried telling Hataro to tag along with her to check the art room for clues, he just froze and stood there looking at her. Hataro didn't want to waste his energy on a stupid lead, but he eventually agreed, and Haibara decided to follow them as well, leaving Satoshi to watch over the library while they were gone. Along the way, Hataro said that the girls in the fine arts class were probably just using the book as a prop for their paintings, and when they got to the art room, Chitanda and Haibara were shocked to see that he was actually right. Back at the library, Satoshi praised him for solving another mystery, and Haibara felt dumb because she had misjudged him for so long, while Chitanda said that she would love to trade her brilliant mind for his exceptional talent. However, Hataro said that his skills were nothing compared to her academic record, and he began realizing how much he hated his isolated life as he saw the joy everyone else was having. He tried walking out, but Chitanda reminded him that they still hadn't found the book yet, and at that moment the librarian stepped into the room thanking Haibara for watching over the place while she was gone. Satoshi introduced himself to her, asking if she had any books about the Classic Lit Club that they could borrow, but the librarian said that there was nothing like that in the library, before walking away. Chitanda was sad to hear this, because it meant that they would have to write the book without any guidance. But Hataro told her not to worry about it, and Haibara was happy that his plan had failed. While he was still trying to get some sleep the next day, Hataro got a call from Chitanda, asking him to join her at a cafe, to sip some coffee and have a little conversation about her personal life. However, when he got to the coffee shop, Hataro waited for an entire hour before she showed up, and when she started acting strange for no reason, he got up to leave, but she begged him to stay back. Chitanda said that she was feeling kind of nervous, but Hataro told her to relax unless she was trying to confess her love for him, so Chitanda said that she had something much more personal to talk to him about. Hataro was starting to feel uncomfortable as well, but then Chitanda told him about her uncle named Sekitani, who was her favorite person back in the days and was also once a member of the Classic Lit Club. However, Sekitani had hugged himself many years ago out of depression, and so Chitanda was trying to recall a memory from her childhood with him, in which he told her something that made her cry. This was the only way she could get closure after he suddenly vanished, and because Hataro was the only person she knew with amazing detective skills, Chitanda asked him to help her solve the mystery. Although he was touched by her sad story, Hataro told her that the mystery was too much for him to handle, but Chitanda argued that he was the right man for the job, because of how he had solved all those cases in school. Because he didn't want to waste his energy on a wild goose chase, Hataro told Chitanda to ask her other friends for help, but she said that it was a personal problem, and that she couldn't tell anyone aside from him. Asking her why she was in such a hurry to figure out the answer, Chitanda told him that her uncle's funeral was coming up very soon, and she wanted to learn the truth before saying goodbye one last time. After hearing all that she had said, Hataro had a change of heart, and he agreed to help her solve the mystery as long as she allowed him do things at his own pace. For the next few days, Hataro began prepping for his midterm exams, and although he usually wouldn't stress himself over anything, he worked extra hard to make sure that he got an average score in all of the subjects. Returning back home, Hataro got a letter from his sister Tomo, asking him how things were going with the Classic Lit Club, and that if he wanted to find any old books written by the club, he should check inside a locker in the club room. Hataro was shocked to hear this, especially because they had been looking for the books not so long ago, and he showed the letter to Chitanda and Haibara, who were glad to see that the mystery had been solved. However, Hataro said that the locker wasn't inside the club room like his sister had written, and when they asked him for an explanation, he said that it was because the club room had changed after his sister graduated high school. According to him, their club used to be located in a classroom that now belonged to students from the newspaper club. And along the way, Hataru noticed some strange machines taped to the walls. They knocked on the class door and waited for a while, after which a senior student named Tageto stepped out, and Chitanda introduced herself to him, but Hataru noticed that the guy was acting very strange. She told him that their club used to hold meetings in this class a few years ago, and that they were looking for some old books that were stored inside a locker, but Tageto denied ever seeing something like that. Hataru wanted to leave, but Ibara held him back, and Chitanda kept insisting that the books were inside the classroom, so Tageto allowed them to search the place so that they could leave him the f*** alone. The girls didn't find anything useful, but because he was a master detective, Hataru had begun to pick up on some clues, and he asked Tageto if they could invite some teachers to search the place as well. Tageto got pissed, and he told the three of them to get the f*** out, but Hataru knew that he was hiding something, so he told him to chill out because all they were looking for was a simple locker. Tageto was twitching like a drug addict, but Hataru kept his cool, and he asked him to bring the books to their club room whenever he found them, and because he didn't want to cause a scene, Tageto agreed to help them out. Outside the class, Hataru asked Chitanda what she knew about Tageto's family, and she told him that they were a prominent family well known for their involvement in the country's educational sector. When they got back to their club room, the girls were shocked to see that the books were already there, but Hataru knew that this would happen, and Ibara asked him to explain everything. Hataru said that Tageto had been trying to hide something the entire time, because the classroom reeked of air freshener, and he had opened up the windows in addition to placing a fan in the room. He also said that the little machines on the wall were actually infrared sensors, which triggered an alarm to inform Tageto if anyone was passing, so that he could quickly cover up his act. With all these clues in place, and the fact that Tageto came from a prominent family, Hataru concluded that the dumbass was trying to stop anyone from knowing that he was inhaling cheap cancer sticks. Asking how the books had magically appeared in their club room, Hataru told Ibara that Tageto had hid the locker under a pile of boxes because he was using it to store his cancer sticks. This was why he had panicked when Hataru said that they would invite some teachers over to search the place, and why he had quickly rushed out to put the books in their club room instead. Ibara was pissed off at how Hataru had been able to solve the case without breaking a sweat, but he told her that it was just dumb luck, while noticing that something was off about Chitanda's mood. When he asked her about it, Chitanda gave him one of the books to read, and he saw a letter inside written about her uncle, and how he had made a huge sacrifice for the sake of the students in their high school many years ago. Chitanda started crying, because she was scared of finding out the truth about what her uncle did, so Hataru told her to calm down and be strong. But then Ibara made things worse when she said that one of the books was missing. On the way back home, Hataru advised Chitanda to tell the others about her problem, and so the next day at the club room, she narrated the story about her uncle to Ibara and Satoshi, who agreed to help out with the mystery. Later that day, Hataru met up with Satoshi at the bus stop, and the two of them rode their bicycles down the road to Chitanda's house, while talking about their experiences in high school so far. Hataru didn't like how stressful it was, and he felt like Satoshi was doing too much by involving himself in so many different clubs. But Satoshi said that he was being a killjoy, and that high school was the best place ever. When they got there, Satoshi was amazed by how large Chitanda's mansion was, and she welcomed them into the living room, where they met Ibara, who was pissed off at them for being late. Chitanda said that the purpose of their meeting was to come up with possible reasons for why an article had been made about her uncle in the old club books, and also possibly uncover her childhood memories. Chitanda gave all of them copies of her proposal, and she said that her uncle was most likely involved in a student protest, where he stood up for something that made the school kick him out. Her best bet was that Sekatani had staged a peaceful protest about something related to the cultural school festival, causing other students to idolize him and write a feature story about him in the yearbook. However, Hataru didn't completely go along with her theory, and Satoshi said that it was probably wrong, because during Sekatani's time, people only ever protested against government officials and not lame old teachers. Ibara apologized because her own suggestion was the exact opposite of what Chitanda had just said, but Chitanda told her not to worry about it, and they all agreed to move outside for the rest of the meeting. Ibara gave everyone a copy of her proposal, and she said that Sekatani was probably the leader of a ruthless gang, and that he had gotten himself expelled after beating up one of the teachers. Hataro didn't agree with her idea, because there was no mention of violence in the stories written about Sekitani. But Chitanda noticed that Satoshi was getting hungry, so she went into the kitchen to make some lunch. When it was his turn to contribute, Satoshi gave everyone a copy of a newspaper article that was published when Sekitani was a high school student, saying that Chitanda's uncle had actually staged a peaceful protest. The evidence from the newspaper was proof that Ibara's theory was wrong, and that Sekitani was not expelled because of violence. But Satoshi said that he had nothing else to talk about other than that. Chitanda said that it was time for Hataro to talk about his own ideas, but after giving everyone a copy of his proposal, Hataro froze and forgot all about what he had wanted to say. The others kept asking him if something was wrong, but Hataro just stayed silent until rain started pouring down, and Chitanda quickly got up to remove the clothes that she hung on the line outside. Before she left, Hataro asked Chitanda if he could use her bathroom, and she showed him the way. But instead of taking a dump, he began thinking of all the infinite possibilities concerning the case with her uncle. When he got back to the living room, Hataro apologized for taking so long, after which he said that there was no need for him to bring up a suggestion, because he had already figured out what happened. According to Hataro, based on all the findings that everyone had made, the valid conclusion was that Sekitani, who was president of the Classic Lit Club at the time, had led a protest to defend the cultural festival. By referencing a phrase from the article that was written about him in the yearbook, Hataro deduced that Sekitani had fought against the school because they planned on reducing the length of days for the festival. But rather than actual violence, Sekitani and the other students decided to cut classes and have a peaceful protest. And because he was the mastermind behind everything, Sekitani was expelled from high school. When she heard this, Chitanda was so impressed that she thanked Hataro for solving the case, and Satoshi also praised him for a job well done. While Ibara kept being a hater as usual, everyone accepted Hataro's theory, so Chitanda said that they would turn it into a feature story and add it in the next yearbook, after which she thanked all of them for coming over to share their ideas. On the way back, Satoshi said that he was surprised at Hataro for using up his energy just to solve the mystery, and he teased him saying that he was only doing all of his because of Chitanda's bunda. However, Hataro said that he had been thinking a lot about life lately, and he wondered if it wasn't so bad to live an active life like everyone else. But Satoshi was shocked that his lazy-ass friend was saying this. When he woke up the next morning, Hataro got a call from his sister Tomo asking him how things were going with the club, so he told her that he was working on a new yearbook with the other club members. Hataro said that they were going to make a story about Sekitani's sacrifice for the whole school. But Tomo said that Sekitani wasn't really as heroic as everyone thought, and she hung up the call before Hataro could find out more, realizing that his answer about the Sekitani case might have been wrong. Hataro called everyone for an emergency meeting at the club room to talk about the other aspects of the mystery. He said that they needed to find out the hidden meanings behind some of the words written in the article about Sekitani, and that they could only do this by meeting up with the author of the article. Ibara was confused on how they would find such a person, but Hataro said that it was simple, because from all indications, the writer of the article was the current school librarian Mrs. Yoko. Everyone was shocked by this claim, but Hataro said that Mrs. Yoko was a member of the Classic Lit Club when she was in high school, and that he had set up a meeting between her and the four of them later today. They quickly went downstairs to meet the librarian, and while Ibara was helping her out, Hataro handed her the article, asking if she was the one who had written it 45 years ago, to which she said yes. Mrs. Yoko said that she was surprised that anyone would still want to know what happened to Sekitani after all these years, so Chitanda said that it was important to her because Sekitani was her uncle. Asking her about him, Chitanda said that her uncle had hugged himself a couple years back, but the news didn't sit well with Mrs. Yoko, so she invited them to her office to discuss more about the matter. Hataro told her his theory regarding Sekitani's expulsion, and Mrs. Yoko was shocked to hear this, because according to her, what he described was almost exactly how things had happened all those years. However, Hataro still needed clarity on some things, so Mrs. Yoko told them her version of the story, starting with how the school board had threatened to shorten the length of the festival from 5 days to only 2 days. This made the students get angry, and they began carrying placards and pasting banners around the school, until an official protest movement against the festival injustice was created. The actual leader of the protest was too much of a pussy to stand up to anyone, so Sekitani decided to be the frontman of the movement. But things got crazy when they accidentally set fire on one of the school buildings. Because all of the students were involved in the movement, the school board couldn't possibly punish everyone, so they decided to set a harsh example by expelling the protest leader, Sekatani. Despite all this explanation, Hataro and the guys were still confused about why the yearbook had Sekatani's story in it, was called Hayaka, and why there were pictures of rabbits and wolves on the front cover. Ibara concluded that the rabbits symbolized the innocent students fighting for their rights, while the wolves symbolized the vicious school authority, and Mrs. Yoko said that she was right. However, regarding the name of the yearbook, Mrs. Yoko said that she had no clue what it meant, but Hataro felt like they were all idiots, because the answer was as clear as day. According to him, Sekatani was trying to pass a message with the name of the book, and when he wrote down the meaning of Hayaka on a piece of paper for Chitanda to read, she quickly began to cry. She remembered that her uncle had told her how he was savaged by the school officials and forced to take the blame while everyone just watched, so he chose to go with the name Hayaka, which meant for someone to scream. With tears in her eyes, Chitanda thanked Hataro for solving the mystery of her late uncle. But as usual, Mr. Cool Guy said that it was just dumb luck. They went back to the club room to plan for the next yearbook. Ibara made an outline and Chitanda praised her for the good work. But Hataro was pissed that he had to write Sekatani's story, so everyone laughed and told him to put his lazy ass to work for once. Hataro and Chitanda walked together after school, and she thanked him for giving her the confidence to share her problem with Ibara and Satoshi, before riding off in her bicycle. Later that evening, Hataro wrote down all of the experiences that he had while solving the Sekatani mystery with friends in the Classic Lit Club, and he mailed it to his sister Tomo the next day before walking to school. When they met at the club room, Ibara was yelling at Satoshi for ignoring all of her calls yesterday for them to go on a date, and when Chitanda tried settling the argument, she only made things worse. Chitanda felt like a moron, and so she started yelling as well. But Hataro was getting tired with all their shouting, so he told Ibara to sit her flat ass down and chill out. Now that he was off the hook, Satoshi told Ibara to act more like Chitanda, because she barely ever got angry and was always composed. But Chitanda said that the same thing applied to him and Hataro as well. However, Satoshi said that he could also get angry sometimes, because he was a human being after all, but that she was the only person he knew that was able to stay cool in all situations. Ibara got jealous because of his statement, but she also said that it was true, and they started talking about the 7 deadly sins of the world, and how Chitanda had never committed any of them. Satoshi and Ibara kept on teasing Chitanda, saying that she was probably an angel in her former life. But when she couldn't take it anymore, Chitanda got pissed and told them to shut up. They were shocked that she actually got angry, so Chitanda told them that it was okay to get angry sometimes, because the 7 deadly sins were nothing but normal human emotions that people go through every day. Asking her why she had never shown her angry side before, Chitanda said that she didn't like doing things that drained her energy, and at that moment Hataro thought that she was the girl of his dreams. However, when Ibara and Satoshi started freaking out, saying that Chitanda had been possessed by an evil spirit, she smiled and said that she was only joking, but Hataro immediately lost interest in her. He told her that there was a time when she got angry during math class, and when Chitanda remembered the event, she quickly stopped him from leaving, saying that she wanted to know his thoughts about the matter. Because she wanted all of their opinions, Chitanda narrated to them what happened, starting with when Mr. Omichi the math teacher walked into their class to deliver a lecture. Mr. Omichi wrote a complex math equation on the board and asked one of the students to solve it. But Chitanda was confused because he had never taught them something like that before. Mr. Omichi turned into a literal demon, and he called the guy a dumbass, after which he asked the smartest student in the class to solve the equation, but even he didn't know the answer to the question. This really pissed Mr. Omichi off, and he yelled at all of them for not paying attention in any of his classes. So Chitanda got up and said that he was the one who was dumb for expecting them to solve something that he never taught. According to Chitanda, after she had yelled at him, Mr. Omichi realized his mistake and became calm. But she was confused on how he had made such a mistake in the first place, so she asked Hataro to help her solve the mystery. However, Hataro wasn't interested, and he told her to let it go, but Chitanda was too curious to back down, so she kept on bothering him and bending over on the table until he was forced to agree.
What do you mean by that?
Hataro said that Mr. Omichi had probably mixed up the dates and taught them the wrong lecture, but Ibara said that his suggestion was very dumb, and that he should start thinking with his head and not his ass. Asking her how she had summoned the courage to speak up to Mr. Omichi like that, Chitanda told Ibara that she had never done something like that before, and that she really couldn't explain why it happened. Turning to look at Hataro, Chitanda asked him to come up with another idea, so Hataro said that Mr. Omichi must have gotten confused because he had taught the same topic to the previous set a year ago. However, Satoshi said that his theory was wrong, because every year the course material for each subject was updated, so Mr. Omichi clearly knows when he is supposed to teach each topic. Satoshi said that he would have freaked out if Mr. Omichi had asked him to solve the equation, even though his class had already learnt the topic. And when Hataro heard this, he finally figured out the mystery. The 10th grade was divided into 4 classes, and because Mr. Omichi had already taught the complex math equation to Satoshi's class, he probably must have messed up his notes and given the wrong lecture to Chitanda's class. Everyone wondered why Mr. Omichi would mix up Class I for Class D, but Hataro said that he must have written down Class D in small letters as a checkpoint in his notes, and then misread it for Class I instead. Chitanda was excited that the mystery had been solved, but she felt bad for talking back at Mr. Omichi, so Ibara got up and told her never to feel bad about standing up for herself. Satoshi said that it was time for them to get back home, so Ibara and Chitanda started packing up their stuff, while Hataro wondered if he would ever enjoy life the same way that Chitanda does. When it was time for summer vacation, all the club members decided to go on a road trip to a nearby village known for having amazing hot springs, but Hataro felt like he would have been better off doing nothing at home. Because her family members owned a guest house in the village, Ibara was able to help them get a place to stay, and Satoshi kept trying to convince Hataro that leaving his comfort zone was a good idea. Everyone got together to eat dinner, after which Hataro went back to his room to lazy around and watch TV, before deciding to get up and meet with Satoshi at the hot springs. He found Chitanda in the hallway, so they walked to the hot springs together, and on the way there, Chitanda told him about her dream of having a sister someday like Ibara's cousins. They went into their separate bathhouses, and Hataro met up with Satoshi in the hot spring, but he got so dizzy from thinking about Chitanda's melon plots that he passed out in the water. Satoshi took him back to their room to relax, but later that evening, Chitanda came to check up on Hataro, and she almost gave him a heatstroke by flaunting her large cannons in his face. She later went out to join the others, and Hataro overheard them talking about the story of a man who had visited the guest house and stayed in room 7, but later hugged himself in the middle of the night. The guests who stayed in that room after him all complained of seeing a strange figure hanging from the roof at night, so Ibara's family members built a second building to keep the guests far away from the haunted room. Hataro noticed someone sneaking out at night, but he ignored it, and when he woke up the next day, he met Ibara, who looked scared because she said that she had seen the haunted guest last night. Hataro and Ibara's cousins just thought that she was overreacting, but after breakfast, Chitanda told Hataro that she had also seen something hanging from the ceiling of the room opposite theirs. Hataro told her that it was probably just an illusion, but the girls were very sure about what they saw, so they asked him to use his Sherlock Holmes skills to solve the mystery of the haunted guest. Ibara had to help her cousins with their homework, leaving Hataro and Chitanda to do all the work. But when Chitanda found it hard to describe what she saw last night, Hataro suggested that they check out the haunted room. However, they saw a sign at the door preventing anyone from entering the room, and when they tried asking Ibara's cousin Kao for help, the little girl just freaked out and ran away from them. When they went outside to investigate, Hataro noticed that the ground was muddy, so Chitanda said that it had rained last night. But before he could come up with any ideas, Kao called them inside for lunch. After eating, the girls took the dishes away. Kao's big sister Bree returned seconds later to show off her yukata to everyone. But for a split second, Hataro felt like he saw a strange shadow behind him. Because they couldn't come up with any ideas, Hataro told Chitanda that they should head back to the bathhouse. And when he got into the water, Hataro asked Satoshi if anything interesting had happened yesterday. Satoshi said that there was a summer festival in the village yesterday, and when Hataro heard that, he immediately knew the answer to the mystery, so he got up to meet Chitanda outside. On the way back, Hataro said that the shadow man she and Ibara had seen was actually just a yukata hanging from the ceiling in room 7, and that it was there to air dry, which was why the windows were open. According to Hataro, Kao had snuck out at night to attend the festival using Ri's yukata, and because she didn't want her older sister to find out, she hung the dress in room 7 to dry after she got caught in the rain. Asking him why Kao didn't just ask her sister for the dress, Hataro said that it was because Ri was the kind of person who marked out all her things, and that she wouldn't have allowed Kao to use the dress even if she asked. He also said that this was the reason Ko acted all nervous earlier today, because she was scared of her secret getting out, and that she must have been the weird shadow he saw after lunch. Hataro told her not to tell Ibara or Satoshi about this, because it was clearly a family matter, but Chitanda couldn't understand why sisters from the same parents would keep things from each other. When they all got back from their trip, Hataro and Satoshi walked to the club room to meet the girls despite still being on summer vacation, and Ibara yelled at both of them for being late. Chitanda rushed in seconds later with a happy look on her face, and she asked them if they would like to watch a mystery movie written and produced by students in the 11th grade. Chitanda said that she had a friend in that grade who was in charge of releasing the movie, and that she was the one who had invited them to watch the film and tell her what they thought about it. When they got to the classroom, Chitanda introduced her friend to the others as Fayumi, and Satoshi was so excited to meet another rich girl that he tried making his move on her, but she told him to try again when his face wasn't this disgusting.
Emotional, damn it!
Asking how she knew Fayumi, Chitanda told Ibara that they've been family friends since childhood, and Fayumi told them to pay close attention to each scene before stepping out to allow them to watch the movie. The film began with a group of high school kids who wandered into the forest to find some materials for their cultural festival display, and they chose to take shelter in an old building in the middle of the woods. They noticed that the living room was really dusty and covered in pieces of broken glass, so they all grabbed some keys and split up to find a better room to sleep for the night. After searching for a few minutes, they realized that none of the rooms were good enough to stay in, so they went to check up on their friend Kaido, who was yet to return from his search. However, when they opened up one of the doors, they were shocked to see Kaido lying cold on the floor in a pool of his own spaghetti sauce, and his arm had been chopped off from his body. The movie ended while the students were trying to find the killer, so Fayumi walked into the class and asked Hataro with his crew who they thought was the culprit among the students in the movie. She also asked them what they thought about the quality of the film, so Ibara said that it was a shit show, and although Fayumi agreed with her, she said that the production team had made it like that on purpose. Satoshi complained that the movie stopped halfway, and Fayumi said that the script wasn't done yet because the writer of the movie Hongo had fallen sick, and so the filming had to stop. Satoshi said that it would be hard to interpret who the killer was from such an amateur movie, and Ibara said that she didn't pay attention to the film, so they all turned to look at Hataro for answers. Hataro wasn't willing to waste his energy on a useless movie, so he told Fayumi to figure it out herself. But Fayumi said that she wasn't an expert at solving mysteries, and that he was known as the Sherlock Holmes of their school. Asking her why she had called their group for help, Fayumi said that it was easier that way because she knew Chitanda personally, and that she had also heard about what happened with the Hayaka incident. Hataro said that he wasn't going to become her slave, and Fayumi apologized before walking away. But Chitanda called her back asking what would happen to the movie, and she said that it would probably go unfinished. Feeling bad that all of Hongo's hard work would go to waste, Chitanda entered her curious mode, and kept asking Hataro to help out with the mystery, until the simp was forced to do what she said. Fayumi said that their only job would be to act as observers and critics, while the detectives from her class tried to figure out what Hongo had initially planned to be the ending of the movie. On their way back home, Satoshi pointed to a large building, saying that the reason Fayumi's family was so prominent was because they had been in charge of running the town's hospital for many years. He also told them that Fayumi was known for her ability to deceive people and make them do her bidding, which was why the students in their school nicknamed her the Empress. The next day, Hataro noticed how hot the weather was, so he decided to stay back at home. But then Chitanda arrived in front of his door, and he was forced to follow her to the club room to meet the others. While they were talking, a girl from Fayumi's class walked into the club room, and after introducing herself as Kurako to the group, she led them to the classroom where they would interact with the detectives. According to Kurako, each of the detectives had their own version about how the movie should have ended, and so it was the job of Hataro and his crew to pick the best one out of the three. The first detective to take a seat was Nakajo, and before they began, Chitanda brought out a box of chocolates for them to share, but everyone quickly spat theirs out because of how horrible it tasted. Asking if there was anything in particular that he hated about filming the movie, Nakajo said that the location of the set was too far from their school, and so he had to spend a lot of money just to go there every day. Chitanda asked him about Hongo's health, and he said that she was still in the hospital. But when Hataro asked if people actually liked her script, Nakajo got angry and said that Hongo was the best writer in the whole school. Ibara told him to calm down, and she asked him a few questions about some of the characters. But when Nakajo was unable to provide any answers, she told him to go on with his presentation. Because he knew nothing about mysteries, Nakajo said that the movie should have an unexpected ending, to keep the audience entertained, like making someone like Hataro to be the culprit. Everyone was shocked to hear this, and when they asked him how the crime was committed, Nakajo said that the killer must have snuck up behind Kaido and stabbed him before escaping through the window. However, Ibara said that he was wrong, because there was a lot of grass outside the room where Kaido was murdered. And so if the killer had actually escaped through the window, the others would have seen a trail of footsteps left behind. Nakajo didn't know how to defend his theory, but when he remembered that the grass hadn't grown yet when they were shooting the film, Nakajo said that Hongo must have forgotten to consider this while writing the script. He said that all they needed to do was to cut the grass and reshoot the scene to match his theory. And Nakajo left the room feeling like a hero, but Chitanda and the others were not convinced by his crappy version. According to Hataro, the major flaw with Nakajo's theory was that there were other windows around the house, and so the killer wouldn't have entered through that route unless he wanted to be seen by the other students. While they were still talking, Kurako walked into the room, and when she asked how the interview with Nakajo went, Satoshi said that they had rejected his idea, and Hataro told her to get them a copy of Hongo's original script. She invited the next person, Tomohiro, for his own interview, and he pointed to a stack of books on a table, saying that those were the novels Hongo had used to draw inspiration for her script. Tomohiro said that Hongo was an amateur when it came to writing mystery stories, and he took out a map of the movie set, showing all of the possible entrance points leading to the room where Kaido was killed. He said that the culprit couldn't have entered through the downstairs window, because then they would have left a trail of footsteps on the grass, and also the front door wasn't an option, because the killer could have easily been spotted. Tomohiro took out a rope, saying that one of the students must have climbed down using the rope, and entered through the window to murder Kaido, before climbing back up. He told them that Hongo had specifically asked him to acquire the rope while they were shooting the movie, and that this would explain why there was no trail of footsteps on the grass outside. Tomohiro was very confident in his own version of the story, but Ibara felt like the guy was a proud prick, and Chitanda said that his theory didn't really align with Hongo's writing style. Hataro also said that Tomohiro's theory was wrong, because the movie was shot in an old building with rusty windows, and so it was impossible for someone to sneak up on Kaido without him hearing the noise. Kurako returned with a copy of Hongo's script, and after they told her that Tomohiro's idea had been rejected as well, she invited the last person, Misaki, to present her own version of the ending scene. Misaki was a diva, and she said that the audience wanted to watch something fun and exciting that was relatable to their generation, and not some boring old Sherlock Holmes type shit. She told them that Hongo had asked for an extra character to be casted in the movie, and Misaki said that her theory revolved around the fact that Kaido was killed by a ghost that haunted the mansion. According to Misaki, the ghost would end up killing most of the other students, until only a guy and a girl were left, who would end up killing the ghost together and smashing each other afterwards.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
She also said that it made perfect sense, because the ghost could easily pass through the front door, but Chitanda didn't like her idea, and she kept on fuming until she passed out from eating all of the Diddy chocolates. While Chitanda was sleeping, Hataro told the others that he liked Misaki's idea, but that it still didn't fit into the narrative of Hongo's script, because she had asked Tomohiro to acquire enough fake blood for only one death. When Kurako returned to hear their thoughts, Hataro said that they had rejected Misaki's idea, and Ibara took Chitanda home, while he and Satoshi walked back together. However, on the way home after Satoshi had left, Hataro suddenly met up with Fayumi on the street, who asked him to join her for a little chat and a cup of tea in a local cafe. She asked him if any of her classmates' theories had worked out, and Hataro said that he and his friends had rejected all of them, because they weren't professional enough for a movie. Fayumi said that she knew from the start that he wouldn't accept any of their ideas, because unlike him, the morons from her class were not smart enough to analyze the mystery and come up with a suitable conclusion. Now that they were finally alone, Fayumi confessed that she had been after him this whole time, and not the entire Classic Lit Club, because Hataro was the only one who had the special talent to fix up their shitty movie. When he heard those words, Hataro felt like his world had gotten much brighter, and Fayumi begged him to help them solve the mystery of the final scene. But Hataro said that he wasn't as talented as she thought. Fayumi told him to stop being humble all the time, because it could hurt others that didn't have his kind of talent, And after thinking about it for a while, Hataro agreed to help her out with the film. He told Satoshi what happened while they walked to school the next morning, and Satoshi teased him, saying that he was shocked that he agreed to do something nice for someone other than Chitanda. Struggling with his decision, Hataro stopped walking and asked him if he believed in special talents, but Satoshi said he couldn't relate to that, because he wasn't born with any talents and was just a jack of all trades. Ibara was shocked to see Hataro in school during summer break, so he told her that he had agreed to solve the movie mystery, and she called him a wimp for letting Fayumi seduce him into doing all the work. They watched the movie one more time, and Ibara kept on talking about the crappy quality of the film, like how the person handling the camera was only capturing scenes from one angle of the room. Hataro didn't care about all those details, because his job was to solve the mystery. But then one of Satoshi's classmates angrily walked in, and began dragging the dumbass away to attend his math summer class. Satoshi resisted, saying that he wanted to watch Hataro solve the mystery, but the angry student dragged him out like a garbage bag, and Ibara said that she had to leave for her library duties. With no one else to help him, Hataro decided to solve the mystery alone, and he watched the stupid movie 1,000 times over while thinking at hyperspeed like Einstein, before figuring the answer. Fayumi returned to hear his answer, so he showed her the movie and the map of the set, saying that no one could have entered the room using either the back door or the rusty windows. So the culprit must have gone in through the main door, and since it was already locked by the time the other students arrived, the person who killed Kaido must have used a master key to get inside. But all of the students had gone round to search the house for better sleeping options, so Hataro concluded that there was a seventh character in the movie, and that this was the person who had committed the crime. However, unlike Misaki's theory, Hataro said that the culprit was a real person, and he pointed out some scenes to prove it, like how the door suddenly lit up with light, but none of the other students were ever seen holding a flashlight. Hataro also made reference to Ibara's earlier statement about how the camera work was really shabby, but according to him, this was actually done on purpose by Hongo to distract the viewers from the real crime. Ibara had also mentioned that the person handling the camera was only capturing scenes from one angle, but Hataro said that it made perfect sense because the cameraman was actually the culprit. According to Misaki, Hongo had been on the lookout for a seventh character before she fell sick, and although it wasn't obvious, some of the students had glanced at the direction of the cameraman, as if they actually knew the person. The perfect answer to the mystery was that the seventh actor had turned off his camera before rushing to permanently delete Kaido and return back to the lobby like nothing ever happened. Although she was impressed by his brilliant mind, Fayumi wasn't convinced by his conclusion, and she asked him why the other students never spoke to the seventh character throughout the movie. But Hataro was way ahead of her, and he said that the seventh person was most likely a creepy loner who nobody ever talked to, just like you worthless losers watching the video right now.
Yo, that one there was a violation. Personally, I wouldn't have it.
This would explain why he had deleted one of them to get his revenge, but she asked him how the mystery person was able to move around without getting caught by the others. So Hataro told her to just accept his idea because she was a dumb worthless bitch. Impressed by his confidence, Fayumi thanked him for saving their movie, saying that the mystery had finally been solved. And Hataro was so stunned by her charm that he began stuttering like an idiot. Later that day, everyone gathered in Fayumi's class to watch the completed film, and when it was over, both Nakajo and Misaki thanked Hataro for saving their movie, calling him the greatest detective in the whole school. However, he noticed that Tomohiro wasn't so happy with the ending, and when he met up with his friends to talk, Ibara and Satoshi didn't look excited at all, and Chitanda just ran out of the room. Ibara pulled him to a corner of the room and she said that his ending was good, but that he had totally forgotten about the part where Tomohiro told them that Hongo had specifically asked for a rope to be in the movie. She thanked him for taking his time to solve the mystery, but Ibara said that she was sure it wasn't the ending that Hongo initially planned for the film, before walking out of the classroom. While he was thinking about what she said, Satoshi met up with him and asked him if the ending of the movie was actually part of Hongo's script, or just something that he had made up using his detective skills. Hataro lied, saying that it was Hongo's idea to make the cameraman the culprit, but Satoshi said that he didn't believe him, because that sort of plot twist could only come from someone who was passionate about mystery novels. And because Hongo had only ever read the Sherlock Holmes series, Satoshi was positive that the ending she had in mind was entirely different from what Hataro had given to Fayumi. Annoyed by his loud mouth, Hataro told him to piss off because none of them knew Hongo to assume that she didn't read other mystery novels. But Satoshi told him to let go of his pride and do the right thing. On his way out of school, Hataro met Chitanda, and as they walked back together, she said that they should make a quick stop by the river to talk about Hongo's script. Chitanda said that she loved Hataro's idea really well, but that she was confused on why Fayumi didn't just tell Kurako to ask Hongo about the ending scene of her script in the first place. Chitanda suspected that Hongo actually wanted to finish the script on her own, but that she was too scared to speak up to her classmates, because she had kept them waiting for so long and delayed the production. She also said that Hongo's version of the ending was probably not that good, which was why Fayumi had recruited them to change the narrative and make the movie more appealing to the audience. Hataro felt stupid for not observing all the things that Chitanda said, and he spent the night feeling sorry and beating himself up for replacing Hongo's precious ideas with his own stupid conclusion. He decided to read a book to take his mind off everything, and he grabbed a book about zodiac signs. But Hataro was shocked when he saw that his star sign was described as someone who was always controlled by women. He flung the book on his bed and ignored what it said. But when Hataro remembered how quickly he had given up his chill lifestyle to help out Chitanda and Fayumi, he knew that the universe was actually giving him a sign. So the next day, he met up with Fayumi in a cafe, asking her if she lied to him when she said that he was a special person. And Fayumi sipped her tea before confessing that she had only used him to complete the script.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
He brought out a paper where Hongo had written down some novels that she had read before writing the script. And by reading through some of those books, Hataro concluded that Hongo had never wanted anyone to die in the movie. This would also explain why she had told Tomohiro to make a small amount to fake blood, and why Hongo had voted for no casualties when the class made a poll to decide on the theme of the movie. Although he wasn't there when it happened, Hataro said that Hongo must have been too shy to speak up to the others about the script, which was why Fayumi decided to handle everything instead. According to him, Fayumi was actually the one who told Hongo to fake an illness, so that she would be absent from the movie production, while she asked her so-called detectives to come up with a better script. However, when she realized that all of them were useless morons, she decided to ask the greatest detective in their school to help out, by tricking him into believing that he was actually special to her. Hataro felt stupid for falling for her mind games, and he called her a cold bitch for giving him mixed signals. But Fayumi said that she only did what she had to do to make sure that the movie was a success. On the way back, Hataro slammed his fists on a garage door in anger, and when Chitanda saw him the next day, she noticed the sad look on his face, so she decided to cheer him up by asking him what Hongo's version of the movie looked like. Hataro said that the culprit was one of the students named Kanasu, who had climbed down through the window using a rope and tried killing Kaido, but ended up stabbing him on his arm instead. Asking about the seventh character that Hongo had described in her script, Hataro told Chitanda that the seventh person was only supposed to be a narrator in the film, and not a major actor. However, Hataro was confused on why Kaido had locked himself inside the room, so Chitanda said that Hanasu must have felt bad for what she did, so Kaido locked himself inside to make it look like his injury was an accident. Surprised on how she figured it out, Hataro asked Chitanda if she knew Hongo personally, but all she said was that she also hated it when people died in films, which was why she could relate to the script. Later that night, Satoshi was hyped because the cultural festival was starting the next day, but Hataro didn't really care, and when he woke up the next morning, he was pissed to see that his sister Tama was back home. She threw an ink pen at him, saying that it was a special good luck charm, but Hataro just ignored her stupid joke, and before he left, Tomo said that she would visit him in school later that day. Satoshi couldn't stop smiling as he walked past all the students, but Hataro was in his usual moody self, and they noticed Ibara ahead of them, so Satoshi walked faster to catch up with her. He complimented her outfit, asking which fantasy character she was dressed as, but Ibara slapped his face, and said that it was rude for him to assume that, just because she was wearing a jacket. Asking her what plans she had for the festival, Ibara said that she was going to be stuck doing boring sales girl duties all day at the manga club. But Satoshi told her to cheer up, because she could still have fun either way. He was excited by all the colorful banners, murals, and pictures that were placed all over the school, and Satoshi left Hataro and Ibara to join his friends at the Arts and Crafts Club. Walking into the club room, Chitanda greeted both Hataro and Ibara before telling them to do their very best so that they could sell all of the copies of the special edition yearbook that they had printed. Hataro tried slapping his full moon to see if it bounced, but then Ibara started apologizing for messing up the order, so Satoshi and the others told her not to worry because they would fix it together as a team. Chitanda said that yearbooks would be sold at $2 per copy, but Hataro reminded her that the major problem they had was the fact that their club room was on the highest floor, far away from most of the students. To solve that issue, Satoshi suggested that he and Chitanda meet up with the chairman of the student committee and ask for another place in the school to set up their yearbook stand. Hataro had a bad feeling about this plan because Satoshi was literally dressed up like Lady Gaga, and Chitanda wasn't good at expressing her thoughts to people that she didn't know. Satoshi also said that he was going to participate in all the major contests and mention their club's name in all of them to make sure that the students actually knew about what they were selling. Seeing that all the difficult jobs had been taken, Hataro quickly said that he was going to stay back in the club room to sell the books to potential buyers, and they all agreed to give it their best shot. Minutes later, everyone gathered in the school hall for the opening ceremony of the cultural festival, and all of the students were amazed by the fresh acrobatic moves of the Gen Z dance club. Remembering that she had work to do, Chitanda rushed out to meet the committee chairman, but along the way, she got distracted by the calligraphy club and stopped to write her name using special ink. She promised herself never to lose focus again, but then Chitanda stopped to join some students playing card games, and she won a medal for being the best player in the crowd. She managed to reach the office of the student committee, and Chitanda met the chairman Tanabe, telling him that her club needed a better space to sell their books, but Tanabe told her that it was too late to make that request. However, just as she was about to leave, Tanabe called her back, saying that he could change his mind if she allowed him to taste her chicken thighs. But Chitanda just thanked him, not knowing what the fuck he was talking about. Meanwhile, Satoshi, who was supposed to be helping her out, was busy laughing his ass off at a comedy show, and Ibara finally went over to the manga club to sell copies of their comic books. She met one of the senior students named Kochi, who thanked her for showing up to help out, but some of the other members were gossiping about Ibara's boring-ass costume, so Kochi told them to shut the hell up. The president walked in, and she was happy to see Ibara. But when Ibara tried asking her if she could drop some copies of their yearbook on the table, she froze and decided not to say anything. Some guys walked in, and Ibara happily welcomed them to the store, while Hataro was happy to be left alone at the club room, and he looked through the window to see the activities going on outside. However, Hataro was surprised when a rock star walked into the room, asking for a copy of their yearbook, so he sold a copy to him. But for some reason, the guy was also interested in Hataro's pen. He said that he was in the fashion club, and that he needed the pen to complete his look, so Hataro told him to take the ugly thing. And in exchange, the guy gave Hataro a VIP pass to their fashion show. Meanwhile, Chitanda tried to stay focused on her work, but she kept on getting distracted by all the different club activities along the way, and ended up becoming a model for the photography club.
Ohayo, Onei-chan.
As part of his grand plan to make the club popular, Satoshi participated in the quiz competition, and he was able to make it past the prelim stage by using his vast knowledge to answer some tricky questions. He met a student named Tani, who was also participating in the quiz, and when it was time for Satoshi to introduce himself, he used the chance to tell everyone about the classic literature club instead. He said that the club had uncovered the long-lost secret of the school's cultural festival, and that if they wanted to find out what it was, they should head over to the club room to purchase a copy of their yearbook. The crowd was excited with his little presentation, and Satoshi was glad that his marketing strategy had worked out. But when Chitanda returned to the club room, she looked exhausted from trying to avoid all the clubs. Hataro told her to relax, because Satoshi had already publicized their name. But when Chitanda remembered that she could ask other clubs for help, she quickly ran out of the room to do that. She met Tageto asking him if his newspaper club could write an article about the Classic Lit Club. But Captain Cancer Stick said that it was a bit late for that, because they were almost done writing the paper. However, he said that another paper would be coming out tomorrow, but that the Classic Lit Club would probably not be in it, because nobody wanted to read about some boring old mystery novels. Chitanda tried arguing that they had written something very interesting in the yearbook, but Togato didn't believe it, and he told her to come back whenever she found a juicy story worth publishing. But just as she was walking away, someone called Chitanda back, and when she turned around, she saw that it was her friend Kaho, who invited her inside her tent for a free magic trick. Chitanda said that she wanted Kaho to predict her future using tarot cards, but Kaho said that she couldn't do that, and she brought out a piece of paper showing that someone had stolen the tarot cards. The thief also left another note, saying that they would return the cards after the festival, so Kaho decided to show this to Chitanda, who she knew was a sucker for solving mysteries. Meanwhile, back at the quiz competition, Satoshi and Tani were leading the scoreboard with 6 points each, but after failing to answer the last question, the guys lost the game to a contestant from the 12th grade. While they were still on stage, Tani told Satoshi how a mysterious thief had stolen things from his club while they were away, and left a note behind. But Satoshi said that it was probably just a prank. Eager to win a contest against Satoshi, Tani said that he was going to beat his ass at the cooking competition tomorrow, but Satoshi was starting to get some awkward Diddy vibes from the guy. Back at the club room, Hataro was peeking at some of Chitanda's pictures when a student walked inside asking for a copy of the yearbook, but Hataro also told him that his zipper was wide open. However, when the guy noticed that his zipper had torn off, he started freaking out, so Hataro gave him a safety pin to hold in place, and in exchange the guy gave him a fancy water gun shaped like a pistol. At the manga club, Kochi was complaining about the low number of sales that they had throughout the day, and she said that it was all because Ibara had made them write reviews of mangas in the first place. She said that all mangas were the same, and so it was dumb for anyone to make a review about all of them. But when Ibara couldn't take it anymore, she got up and said that Kochi was wrong for saying that. She argued that anyone with good taste would be able to tell the difference between a good story and a bad one. But Kochi said that people only read what they were interested in, whether that was romance or science fiction. According to her, a book could really only be called a masterpiece if it had a lot of popularity among readers. But Ibara said a true masterpiece was defined solely by the talent of the writer. And to prove her point to Kochi, Ibara said that she was going to come along with the copy of a brilliant, yet underrated manga tomorrow for her to read and assess whether or not the book was actually a masterpiece. But while all of this was going on, more students walked into the club to watch the girls trash talk each other, and they ended up buying some mangas in the process, which made the club's sales go up. When they all regrouped at the club room, Hataro told everyone that they had only sold 14 copies of the yearbooks, but Satoshi said that he was going to make things better by winning the cooking competition tomorrow. However, Ibara told him that it was a team contest, and with no options left, Satoshi begged the girls to join him in the contest. Chitanda said that she was definitely in, while Ibara told him that she would talk it over with the manga club president. They heard the school bell ring, and Chitanda was just about to leave when she noticed that the envelope she had put her pictures in was open, and she started freaking out knowing that Hataro had seen them. Back home, Ibara searched around for the manga that she had bragged about to Kochi, but couldn't find it anywhere, so she decided to take a second-rate comic book to the manga club instead. When she met Kochi at the club the next day, Ibara bowed her head down saying that she should forgive her for not finding the special book, but Kochi just told her to help out with the posters. Before walking out of the room, Satoshi met up with the ladies, asking them if they were ready for the cooking contest, but when Ibara said that she had to help the manga club draw some posters, Satoshi said that he would put her in the final round of the contest. Ibara promised to make it there on time before running off, and Satoshi also went to the student committee office where he met with Tani, and told him how a thief had robbed Tani's club. Satoshi said that it was probably one of the members that was pulling a prank, but Tanabe said that the same thing happened with the karaoke club, and Satoshi smiled because he wanted to solve the mystery on his own. Meanwhile, Chitanda went downstairs to meet with Fayumi, asking her to help their club, so she agreed to sell the yearbooks for half the price to make the sales go faster, and she told Chitanda to give her 20 copies. However, Chitanda didn't have any copies at hand, so Fayumi told her to always carry a copy with her everywhere she was going, and Chitanda begged Fayumi to teach her the secrets of manipulating people. Fayumi hesitated a bit, But then she agreed, saying that the first step was to make sure that the person she talked to believed that whatever idea she was telling them was actually theirs to begin with. And to do this, Fayumi said she had to make the person think that she was doing them a favor instead, by pretending that she didn't care at all and that it was their job to impress her. Finally, Fayumi said that this trick worked best on boys and that she should do it while talking to the guys in a hidden corner, away from people, because all guys were suckers for intimacy. Back at the club room, Hataro was bored out of his mind watching people having fun downstairs when two girls dressed in Halloween costumes suddenly walked in, saying that they were from the baking club. When he noticed that they were interested in his gun shooting on their faces, Hataro made the girls buy 2 copies of the yearbook in exchange for it, and they gave him some delicious treats before walking away. Out on the field, Satoshi and Chitanda sat down waiting for Ibara to return. But then Tani walked up to them, and he told Satoshi that he was going to win the cooking contest because his teammate was a professional chef. The judges introduced all of the teams that were competing in the contest, and Satoshi said that he was going to be the starting player for their team and blow the judges away with his signature fried rice. However, when Chitanda reminded him that each contestant had only 20 minutes to prepare a meal, Satoshi realized that he wouldn't have enough time for his special dish, so he started to freak out. But he got back up and raced to the stage to get some ingredients from the bowl, before walking to his mini kitchen and chopping up all the different vegetables into tiny bits for a new dish. Chitanda started panicking because she felt like Satoshi was using the wrong ingredients, but then she realized that he was actually making veggie stew. And when his time was up, Chitanda walked up to the kitchen to take over. She quickly impressed the judges with her cooking skills, and Satoshi was feeling confident in their chances of winning. But then Chitanda got carried away and used up all of their ingredients. It was time for the last contestant to cook their meal, and Ibara was nowhere to be found. But just when Satoshi was about to give up, Ibara suddenly barged into the arena, breathing hard from all the running. She walked up to the kitchen, but was shocked to see that there were barely any ingredients left to cook with, and Ibara kept thinking of what dish to make while her time was quickly running out. But just when it seemed like there was nothing she could do, Hataro yelled out to Satoshi from the club room window, who rushed over to collect a bag of flour from him to give to Ibara. Now that she had something to cook with, Ibara got back into action, and she began frying up some delicious shrimp pastries, while trying to stay calm as her time was almost over. Checking through the utensils, Ibara noticed that a ladle was missing, and she yelled at the judges for trying to ruin her chances, so they quickly sent a member of the cooking club to give her one. Ibara completed her dish with only a few seconds to spare, and the crowd went wild with excitement, while Satoshi and Chitanda praised her for coming through and helping out with the contest. After tasting all the different dishes, the judges announced that Satoshi's team were the champions of the cooking competition. But Ibara was sad because her fried shrimps didn't cook properly. The judges apologized to Ibara for not adding a ladle to her utensils, but while they were talking, Chitanda walked up to the mini kitchen and was shocked to see another letter from the festival thief. When they got back to the club, Satoshi and Ibara thanked Hataro for coming through with the flour, but because she was so curious, Chitanda gave him the letter that the festival thief had left behind. Hataro just ignored her and said that they had to focus on selling their yearbooks, but then Satoshi said that the best way for them to do that was to lure in customers by giving the newspaper club a juicy story about the festival thief. Satoshi planned on creating an article for the school newspaper describing Hataro as a master detective that would unmask the secret identity of the festival thief, and that everyone should buy their yearbook to know more about him. However, Hataro refused to be part of his stupid money-making scheme, and although Chitanda tried begging him to do it, he said that it was impossible to find one thief amongst all of the students at the festival. Because he was obsessed with fame, Satoshi tried saying that they should stage a robbery in the club room to draw in customers, but then Ibara gave him a death stare, so he gave up the crazy idea. Hataro asked which clubs had been attacked so far, and when Satoshi told him the names of the clubs, he realized that the thief was following a pattern based on the Japanese alphabet system. Satoshi got a call, telling him that the thief had stolen a water gun from the gardening club, and Ibara noticed that the pattern of thefts were oddly similar to a mystery novel that she once read. After writing down all the clubs that were hit, and also the things that were stolen from them, Hataro surprised the others by saying that the festival thief's last target was probably their own club. Chitanda quickly ran out to give this story to the newspaper club, and Satoshi also stepped out to do some more investigating. leaving Hataro alone with Ibara, who started yelling at him for no reason. When she got to the front of the newspaper club, Chitanda started revising all of the manipulation techniques that Fayumi had taught her, but before she could say anything, one of the members ran out through the door like a maniac. Chigeto told her to come back later, saying that they were very busy at the moment, but Chitanda said that she had a juicy story to tell him, and she dragged him to a corner just as Fayumi had told her to do. However, Chitanda was horrible at seducing guys with her feminine powers, and Chigeto had already started to leave, so she called him back saying that she knew all about the festival thief's next move. Chigeto was immediately drawn by her statement, and when she told him that the thief was using the Japanese alphabetical system to steal items, he understood why the thief had targeted their own club as well. He thanked her for helping out, but Chitanda was too shy to tell him to write about her club in the paper, and she ran into Satoshi, who said that he was going to catch the festival thief red-handed at a display in the Magic Club. Chitanda wondered why he wanted to do something like that, when the initial plan was to bring in more customers by catching the thief at their own club. But Satoshi told her not to worry about it, and he quickly ran up the stairs. While he was waiting for the show to begin, Tani met up with Satoshi, telling him that he was going to catch the thief and become famous because he was an expert at solving mysteries. Meanwhile, at the club room, Hataro was trying to figure out why the thief decided to follow such an obvious pattern, like the Japanese alphabet, and Ibara said that the guy was probably just pulling a huge prank on everyone. Asking why he had suddenly become interested in the case, Hataro said that it was literally impossible to ignore anything whenever Chitanda got involved. But Ibara just laughed because she knew that he was a simp. She got up to leave, thanking him for helping her with the flour in the cooking contest. But Hataro said that he had to give her something in return, so she threw her pocket mirror at his ugly face. At the magic show, Satoshi kept looking around for any signs of the festival thief, and he noticed that a lot of important people were around for the show, including the student council president Kugeyama. The host thanked everyone for coming, but before he could even perform the first trick of the day, Satoshi noticed that one of the candles had gone missing, and he realized that the thief had already struck. He figured that the festival thief must have entered the magic room and taken the candle when nobody was looking, and Satoshi felt stupid for thinking that he could catch the thief on his own. At the manga club, some of the older girls were making fun of Ibara for trying to impress Kochi with a fake manga, but then Kochi walked in and told them to shut the hell up, because Ibara was actually right. Noticing all the mean faces staring at her, Ibara stepped out for a while to take a breather, and she tried talking to Satoshi downstairs, but the moron didn't even hear her, and he kept on walking. Just as the tears were about to come out of her eyes, Ibara heard the manga club president Yuasa call her name, so she quickly acted like everything was okay while asking her what she wanted. Yuasa apologized for not defending her when she and Kochi were arguing earlier, but Ibara said that it was okay because it wouldn't be nice if she took sides with a junior student over her own friend. However, Yuasa said that Kochi wasn't really a bad person like everyone thought, and that she had actually helped another student named Haruna to write the manga that Ibara was bragging about. Shocked to hear this, Ibara asked where she could meet Haruna, but Yuasa said that she had moved to another school, and that only Kochi could tell her what actually happened between the both of them. While she was walking around with copies of their yearbook, Chitanda came across an article on the notice board written by Chigeto, and she was happy when she saw that he had talked about her club in it. Satoshi returned to the club room looking sad, and he told Hataro that he was unable to catch the thief at the magic show. But Hataro said that it was a good thing, because they wanted him to come to their club anyways. Chitanda walked in while they were still talking, and she told them about the article that Chigeto wrote about them, and also said that she wanted to talk about the story on the school radio tomorrow. Ibara also walked into the club room, and when she asked how many books were left, Hataro said that 100 copies were yet to be sold, but Satoshi was confident that they would do better when he had finally caught the festival thief. So he went to school early the next day, in the hopes of catching the festival thief before anyone was around. But Satoshi was shocked to see Tani and a couple other amateur detectives already waiting. However, after spending hours at the global club, all the guys started to leave, and Satoshi was getting worn out when suddenly Tani got a message saying that the thief had stolen some instruments from the music club. Satoshi was shocked by this news because it didn't add up with the whole alphabetical order pattern. But while he was thinking of a new plan, Hataro was keeping track of their sales for the day. But while counting how many books were left, Hataro's sister Tama walked into the club room, and after teasing him for being such a hardworking student, Tama bought a copy of the yearbook to support them, asking why he had a mirror with him. Hataro told her that he had been trading things with people ever since she gave him that stupid pen, so Tama took the mirror and gave him a girly manga in exchange. He was just about to ask her what the book was for when Tama rushed out of the room, so Hataro decided to read the manga to pass time before the big event with the festival thief. When she got back to the club, Chitanda saw Hataro reading the girly manga, and she got curious, saying that she had seen the picture on the front cover before. But Hataro told her to just focus on selling their own books. However, Chitanda kept trying to collect the manga from him, and Hataro refused until he started seeing a little bit of her cherry plots, so he allowed her to look through all the images in the manga. Chitanda pointed to a particular image, saying that it looked similar to something she had seen around school, and Hataro allowed her to borrow the book so that she could compare the two pictures. Meanwhile, at the manga club, Ibara was helping out with posters, when suddenly one of the students accidentally spilled brown paint all over her clothes, causing everyone to stop and stare at her. Although she was pissed, Ibara decided to leave the place to stop her from beating the shit out of the student. But she ended up bumping into Chitanda, who asked her if she knew about the manga. Surprisingly, Ibara said that she knew the manga because it was the one she had bragged to Kochi about. And Chitanda said that she had seen the image on the front cover somewhere around school, so Ibara agreed to help her solve the mystery. Returning to the club room, Chitanda told the guys that Kugeyama was the one who drew both of the images, but Hataro had no idea who she was talking about, so Satoshi told him that Kugeyama was the student council president. Ibara added that the person who wrote the book, Miss Haruna, was once a student of their school, and she tried asking Hataro to lend the book to her, but he said that he needed it for something important. While the others were talking, Hataro was trying to understand the festival thief mystery, and when Chitanda saw the look on his face, she asked him if he had figured out the case, but Hataro lied and said that it was nothing. He tried sneaking out of the room with Satoshi, but the moron blurted out that Hataro had solved the mystery, and Chitanda stared at him with her eyes of curiosity, asking him to tell her what he knew. Hataro tried avoiding the question, but when she kept insisting, he said that he wanted to talk about the plot sizes of all the girls in school, and Chitanda remained silent with her mouth wide open. Out in the balcony, Satoshi laughed at Hataro's silly excuse, and when he asked him what he wanted to talk about, Hataro said that he was still trying to figure out the answer to the festival thief case. However, because he was really desperate, Satoshi told him to spit out the answer already, but when he realized that he was acting crazy, he quickly calmed down and said that Hataro should tell him his ideas, based on everything that had happened so far. Hataro said that the festival thief was probably using another pattern aside from the alphabetical order, which they had initially concluded on. But Hataro said that the answer to their mystery could be inside the girly manga. According to him, the manga said something about the writers coming up with another book at the next festival, which would be based on the greatest mystery novel ever written, called The ABC Attack. However, there were no new books published by the manga club at this year's festival, and Hataro said that the festival thief was probably just trying to create suspense by following in the footsteps of the ABC Attack novel. Although he was impressed by the odd connection, Satoshi wasn't so sure if it was the right answer, and he told Hataro that he was going back inside to help Chitanda prepare for her interview. But just before he left, Satoshi looked at Hataro, and he hoped that somehow the prodigy detective wouldn't solve the mystery before he did, because it was his turn to shine this time around. Don't forget to click on the description link to get the special discount CyberGhost VPN is granting to our channel users. This application will protect your data while you browse and give you full access to all blocked content on the internet for only $2.03 a month. Totally risk-free, so check it out. Link in the description. Watch this next video. Till next time, my fellow legendary plot masters.